Hello folks, it's Wager Detective coming at you live from Atlantic City. We're at the Tropicana right now. There's a buzz going on. Everybody's watching college football, college basketball, getting ready for the NFL playoffs. They start in a couple hours. It's 1:30 p.m. here. I'm at the Tropicana Sportsbook. And guys, let's get into this cap. We're going to talk about the Rams versus the Panthers. Be sure to click the like button, subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Follow me and set alerts, guys, on all those platforms. You never know what Wager Detective's going to drop at a moment's notice. I'm so giddy right now because college basketball, all my plays were posted on Twitter. They're looking good right now. Looking to cash a couple tickets early, and I'm just excited about the way that the early transition from football, college football, and the NFL is starting to transition into college basketball right off where I left it from last year in March Madness, and I'm just excited, man. Looking forward to transitioning into NHL and college basketball, the two sports I will be focused on after the NFL and college football season is over. Let's get into this cap. Talk about this Rams team. Rams against Carolina, what you're looking at here, and as you see there, the Rams did lose against Carolina 28-31 in their previous meeting. And if you look at that game, and we'll get into it, but if you look at the history here, the Rams have had a tough time at Carolina. Let's take a look at it. 1-1, 1-2, 1-3. They're 1-4 in their last 5 at Carolina. Now, when I looked at this line early in the week, and I have a video on YouTube, I didn't change it. I don't take anything down. I post something, whether it's on Twitter, whether it wins or loses, right or wrong, it stays up, doesn't come down. But when I looked at this early projection, I thought 10.5 was high. And then I looked at some of the numbers and the metrics, and I was like, you know what? There is some value on the Rams. But now that I'm looking at this kind of eluded a little bit of my cap. They are 1-4 in their last 5 at home. You got to remember, the Rams are coming off demolishing the Cardinals last week. To end the season, right? At home, I believe it was. And now they got to travel to Carolina, a team that already beat them this year. And then the books are throwing up a 10.5. Carolina is hearing all the locker room talk. I believe most of my caps and anyone else out there should be built on emotional value. And all I'm seeing is people popping up with the Rams. And listen, that was my early lean too. That was Monday morning. I put that up. Word must have got around. Word travels fast. What Wager Detective probably puts up, and guess what? Those words creep across social media. You can believe it or not. Somebody as small as Wager Detective doesn't have that many followers on Twitter, doesn't have that many followers on YouTube. You'd be surprised how word travels fast when sharp action is on a side. So, with that being said, you look at what Carolina has done at home against the Rams. I mean, look. They're 4-1 in their last 5. And if you look at the history, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games, Carolina is 6-3 in the last 9 meetings versus the Rams. The Rams are got to be a public team, even at 10.5. People are probably saying, I heard even on ESPN today that, oh, well, the number's got to be high for this reason, and the public's probably going to look at the 10.5 and be like, well, I'll take the 10. I'll take the 10.5. Listen, I'm starting to believe otherwise. I'm starting to believe that Carolina backed into the playoffs. They needed help. They're one of the worst teams ever to make it into the playoffs. This, that, the other. Can't trust Bryce Young. They don't have enough to keep up with this Rams offense. Blah, blah, blah. All I know is right here, the Rams are 1-4 in their last 5 at Carolina, and the Rams are 3-6 last 9 overall versus Carolina. So keep that in mind. And if we look at the last 9, we know this total set at 40. Let me take a look here. Make sure I got everything lined up here. Come on, phone. Come on, phone. Come on, phone. Not going to show it to me. I believe the line is 46.5. And if we look at that, last game went over, under, under. Okay? This could be an under game. They scored 59 earlier this year. First game of the playoffs, things could get stuck in the mud, stop drives. We know that Stafford threw an interception or two in that game that probably, I believe one of them led to a touchdown on a return. So keep an eye on that as we continue to cap this game. Now, let's get into this Rams team and what they've done this year. Sean McVay, absolutely fantastic. I do have some stats here that I did draw up on this game prior to getting this cap ready. I found some of it pretty interesting. The Rams under McVay, okay, they are in the playoffs 0-1, 1-1, 2-1, 3-1, 3-2, 4-2, 5-2, 6-2, 7-2, 7-3, 8-3, 8-4. They're 8-4 under McVay in the playoffs. They're 3-3 on the road, okay? And as far as covering the spread in their wins, out of those 8 wins, they've only covered this number twice. So they're covering the 10.5 under McVay in 25% of their wins in the playoffs at 10.5. So keep that in mind. And if we look at 7 over and 8 and 7 over and 5 under for McVay in all his playoff games, under that 46.5. Okay. We look at the Panthers. I got their playoffs here. They're 5-6 in their last 11 playoff games, but they're 1-5 against the spread in those 6 losses at the 10.5. So 3 of the 5 no covers against the NFC West. So that brings the cap kind of back to the Rams there, in the sense that it is a revenge game for the Rams. They did lose at Carolina earlier, but we do know that Carolina is 6-3 in their last 9 at home versus the Rams, and also the Rams are 1-4 in their last 5 at Carolina historically. So some things to think about there. And the Rams, look at that, second best SRS in the NFL, and played a pretty tough schedule. Now, when you get to that point and you've played a tough schedule in the NFL all year, can that wear on you? We shall see. You look at the Rams, they're number 1 in yards in the NFL, number 1 in first downs in the NFL this year. If we look at them passing, 46 passing touchdowns this year, okay? But they give up a lot of passing touchdowns themselves, which puts them at 19th in the NFL in giving up passing touchdowns, okay? Now, if we look at what they do, average time per drive, plays per drive, yards, and points per drive, okay? Look at that, 2.80 points per drive for the Rams, and then look what they give up points per drive on the year, 1.78 points per drive. Solid defensively. If we look at what they've done this year, okay, pretty solid team. Third down conversion, 17th in the NFL, converting at a 39% clip, which tells me they pick up a lot of chunk plays, right? They're not getting into a lot of third down conversions. They're getting the first downs on first or second down, right? 76 for 192. Now, if we look at their red zone percentage, 48 for 76, very, very solid. 7th best in the NFL. And look at that. They're plus 24 touchdowns against their opponents in the red zone this year. So on offense, they got 48. And on defense, they've only given up 24 touchdowns on the year. So they doubled up on their opponents in red zone touchdowns, scoring 48 and only giving up 24 on defense, which puts them on that 24 red zone touchdowns on defense. That's 3rd best in the NFL. Now, if we look at Matthew Stafford, having a great year this year, 4,700 yards, 46 touchdowns. He should get the MVP. 236 first downs. 277 yards per pass. He's absolutely fantastic. Only been sacked 23 times. He is a Pro Bowler, 1 fourth quarter drive and 1 game-winning comeback. Okay, so who's getting it done for them? You look at rushing there. Kyron Williams has got 10, and Blake Corum has 6. That's pretty much round out that 17 there. Puka Nacua got in for 1. Now, if we look at receiving, what they've done this year, Puka Nacua led the NFL with 80 first downs. And you look at Devontae Adams, he will be back today after missing 3 games. He did lead the NFL in touchdown receptions with 14 of them this year. So that's something they're going to want to think about there for them. And you look at 2 Pro Bowlers there, Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua. But look at that, 63 touchdowns from scrimmage for the Los Angeles Rams. So I want to take a look at their kicking and what they've done there. Joshua Carty, okay, he is 10 for 15 on the year in field goals, and he is on extra points. What has he done this year? 23-26. So a little bit of a question mark there as far as a field goal kicker and an extra point guy. And then we look at their punter here this year, okay, Ethan Evans. He has, let me see how many punts he has this year, okay. 46 touchbacks on his punts this year on kickoffs. And he's averaging 46 yards a punt, right? So not bad there. Okay, 61 kickoffs, and he does have an average of 64 yards on the kickoff. So not a bad punter and a pretty decent field goal kicker, but not a guy that you're going to necessarily be counting on late in the game. You might be wanting to fade him if you need a game-winning kick. All right, let's get into. I want to see what they did. I'm going to take a look at their game schedules here. Okay, if we look at the Rams, what have they done this year? They've turned the ball over 15 times, 8 interceptions and 7 fumble losses, okay? And again, like we said before, he hasn't been sacked. He's only been sacked 23 times. He's gone a number of games. I mean, he's only gone 3 games this year for Stafford where he hasn't gotten sacked, okay? And if you look at the Rams rushing, the last 2 games, they did not have a rushing touchdown, but they've had 6 passing touchdowns, so they've made up for that considerably, not being able to get in the end zone on the ground. I would expect Kyron Williams to get a healthy dose here in this playoff game. So let's take a look and see what they do against teams. They forced 26 turnovers this year against their opponents, 16 of them coming by way of interception. And if we look at what they've done to the opposing quarterbacks, they have sacked the quarterback 47 times. So they are plus 24 sacks in that department, which is pretty solid, man. They definitely find ways to get to the quarterback. And if we look at defensively, I want to see what who is the main culprits here on defense for the Rams, because we know that they have a formidable offense. 16 interceptions. Who's the main culprit there? They got a couple guys with 3. Kobe Durant and Emmanuel Forbes with 3. And then interception touchdowns. They do have 1. They do have 12 forced fumbles, 82 passes deflected, 47 sacks. That's very, very solid. 66 tackles for loss, and look at that, 117 quarterback hits, which is absolutely fantastic. So this team is good on both sides of the ball. They're well coached. Again, the cap is leaning both ways. We're looking at the Rams are 1-4 in their last 5 at Carolina, and they're 3-6 last 9 versus Carolina straight up. Line's 10.5. Book is expecting a revenge spot for the Rams. People are counting out Carolina. Had a good year, but they're expecting them to kind of fade here and just go off into the sunset. But let's see what Carolina does well this year as we get into the cap with them, okay? We did, like we said they're 6-5 in their last 5 playoff games, and in those 5 losses in their last 11 playoff games, 5 of those losses, they're 1-4 against the spread Carolina, covering that 10.5. So that pulls the cap towards the Rams, okay, in a revenge spot here. We look at Carolina, look at that, 27th in yards, middle of the pack in giving up yards defense. 24 touchdown passes, puts them in 19th best, but they don't give up. They've only given up 20 passing touchdowns, which puts them 7th in the NFL. And if you look at their schedule, it's not as strong as the Rams was, and the SRS is not as strong as anywhere near what the Rams are. Carolina averaging 27 points a game, but only giving up 22, which puts them middle of the pack in the NFL and giving up yards. So let's take a look at what they do. Passing, rushing. only nine rushing touchdowns, which puts them 27th in the NFL, and they give up 20 rushing touchdowns on the year, puts them at 25th. So that's going to be their weak spot here against this team that's led by Kyron Williams, who has 10 on the ground. They do seem to match up well against the Rams in the passing department defensively, because they are, like I said, they've only given up 20 on the year, puts them at 7th. Very, very solid. Offensively, time per drive, they're 5th. Plays per drive, 9th. But when it comes to yards, 21st, and then points, 1.84 points per drive on the year for them. They do give up 2.27 points per drive. And if you look at them, if you look at where they're at, I mean, they're the top half. They're a team that gets down the field, they drive, but they seem to stall inside that red zone, because time of drive 5th and plays per drive 9th, but you look at yards and points, that's a big disparity there, so they stall drives. That leads me to the under. The thought process goes immediately to the under, because the Rams, they like to pass the ball, but the Panthers are good at stopping teams from getting passing touchdowns, and they're not as good against the rush. So I expect Rams and McVay to give a healthy dose of Kyron Williams, run the ball, eat clock. Probably want to get in here without getting too many injuries. You're on the road. You're coming from the West Coast. You're gonna, this is not a game where you're trying to get into a track meet. You want to eat drives up and score as much as you can. But I think the more I look at this, the under is becoming more increasingly favorable for me here. And if we look at the Panthers' third down conversions, 25th in the NFL, only converting 36% of the time. They're right there with the Rams, right? So the thing is, if the Rams give up chunk plays, which I expect the Rams to run, explosives, it could be a long day for this Falcons defense. If you look at red zone percentage, only 24 red zone touchdowns, 45 attempts. 53% red zone efficiency, not good, but they are middle of the pack in giving up touchdowns. So they're another team that's a bend but don't break defense. They let you get down there, but they can stall you. And if they stall you, you got to bring in the Cardi, the kicker, and he's not necessarily a guaranteed field goal kicker that's going to be lighting up the scoreboard. He just doesn't have that much experience because the Rams scored so much with touchdowns, but I do believe that he could be a liability and miss a field goal. And one missed field goal here, an extra point missed there, all leads to that under. I do believe that total is set a little bit too high at 46.5. Now, let's get into who's doing what for Carolina. Rico Dowdle, he's the main guy there, man. If I'm the Carolina Panthers, I'm looking to go into the draft and get a running back to complement the other players they got on that team. But that's their main running back there. If we look at receiving, you got Tatario McMillian, 7 touchdowns, and then Chuba Hubbard and Jalen Coker with 3, and then Xavier Legette with 3. They got a number of guys with multiple touchdowns, so it should be interesting to see. They got options there to move the chains, but you're talking about a Rams defense, very opportunistic. I don't know if you're going to be one. I don't know, and if you look at the quarterback, Bryce Young, he's got 23 touchdown passes, but he's also got 11 interceptions, which is absolutely could be a problem against this team, this opportunistic Rams defense that definitely has a lot of interceptions on the year. So, with that being said, even though the Carolina doesn't have a great running game, if we look at what they do, okay, rushing the ball, okay, 461 attempts in how many games? In 17. 461 divided by 17. So they're running the ball about 27 times a game, right? Which is pretty solid, right? It's a pretty solid. And then if you look at passing the ball, 515. 30 times a game. So they're a mixed attack. They're passing the ball 30 times a game, and then they're running the ball, what did we say there? 27 times a game for about 57 plays. Rams, good defense, man. If I'm going to make this call here, I mean, the more and more I look at this, I mean, I just really, really feel 59 they scored in the first game. I just don't know. And I'm going to take a look here. I'm going to take a look at the game logs here for these two teams. If I'm going to take a look at this, okay, if I'm going to take a look at this, what do they do well? They got 23 turnovers on the year, right? That's 7 more than what the Rams had, because Stafford just doesn't turn the ball over. Towards the end of the year, he did. He had like 2 interceptions against the Falcons. When I Wager Detective had the Falcons +7, they won the game outright. He threw a couple interceptions in that game. He played a horrible game, and but if you look at Carolina, 5 turnovers in their last 2 weeks alone. But they've gone a number of games this year, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games where they haven't turned the ball over. But other than that, they turned the ball over quite a bit. They're going to want to clean that up. They're on a 2-game losing streak, okay? Losing by 17 against Seattle, 19. So 19, they're losing by almost 10 points a game over their last 2 games. I don't necessarily know if that's going to be the case here. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't necessarily know if you're going to look at this team and say, you lost 2 in a row. They haven't lost 3 in a row all season long. Each time they've lost 2 in a row, which was only 1 time this year, look what they did against Atlanta, 30-0. They blanked the team. Now, it becomes, well, what do you give up? Gave up 16, 27-20. There's a number of games here where they've given up 20, identical number, 20, which is 3 times in their last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games. 3 times in the last 6 games, they've given up identical 20 spots to their opponents. All right? And if you look at the season-long numbers, how many of these games have gone over 46.5? 0-1, 1-1, 1-2, 2-2, 3-2, 4-2, 4-3, 5-3, 5-4, 5-5, 6-5, 6-6, 7-6, 7-7, 7-8, 7-9, 7-10. So 7 over and 10 under for Carolina Panthers games this year, and only 1 in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1 over and 5 under, 46.5 in the last 6 Carolina Panthers games. Now, if I'm going to look at that, and I'm going to look at the metrics, and I'm going to take into account the last game went to 59, they're setting up a 46.5 here, I do believe this is going to be Wager Detective's stronger play here. Wager Detective is going to call under 46.5 in this game, okay? And the more I look at it, the more I feel as though, the more I do believe that Carolina, I'm going to go on history defining this matchup, because I did believe that there was value with the Panthers at 10.5 this week. The line didn't move. I'm going to still believe that my cap is going to change on that aspect, and I do believe Carolina covers this 10.5. But the stronger lead for Wager Detective here at 1:53 p.m., January 10th, 2026. Wager Detective's stronger lean on this game between the Rams and the Panthers is under 46.5. Secondary option, and that under, I'm gonna chalk that up to like a 68% chance of an under, 68 to 70. I'm calling that. And then on the side, I would bring that down a little bit. I would say about a 58-42 percentage lean towards Carolina to cover the 10.5. So this is Wager Detective calling under 46.5 as his most solid lean on this Rams-Panthers game. And then secondary lean is Carolina plus 10.5. Follow Wager Detective on YouTube and Twitter, and set alerts, guys. You never know what Wager Detective is going to drop. I'll talk to you soon.